Elton John shared upsetting news about his health. As he broke down on stage, Elton John made an unpleasant announcement. Elton John was performing a show as part of a farewell tour in February 2020 when suddenly things came to a halt. His fans looked on worriedly as the legend bent over his grand piano, weeping and shaking his head. He had stopped singing due to something going wrong, which wasn't found out until after the show. Elton John's Farewell Yellow Brick Road tour originated as a tribute to the musician's wish to spend more time with his family, allowing him to organize the show in the US. This show was not John's first time having to fulfill one of his music tour obligations, but it provided a unique opportunity to spend more time with them. John revealed in this book that he had been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and the celebrity indicated he decided to have surgery to treat it rather than chemotherapy to protect his family. He wrote, "I don't want the idea of cancer hanging over us for years to come, I just want to be rid of it." However, John understood these steps could lead to issues. He mentioned in his memoir, "A lot of men won't be able to handle this, as it's a painful surgical procedure. You won't have intercourse for a year afterward, and you can't control your bladder for 2 to 3 months. Nevertheless, my kids decided for me." Sadly, John went on to endure problems because of his physical condition. During a trip to South America, you see, John had to be rushed to England for further medical care. In his book, he wrote, "I was taken to King Edward VII Hospital in London, where I was scanned. But fortunately, I was told that my condition was so severe, the hospital didn't have the equipment to handle it." John was subsequently transferred to another hospital, the London Clinic, where he went under a scalpel. The singer recollected in his book, "By 2:30 p.m., I was on the operating table, having lymphatic fluid drained this time out of my diaphragm. For 2 days afterwards, I was a patient in intensive care." The entertainer said, "When I came around, they said I had contracted a severe disease in South America, and they were treating it with intravenous doses of antibiotics. But the fever returned, they took a sample of the infection, significantly worse than they had initially thought." John described the severity of the illness in his book. He wrote, "There were MRIs, and we had other examinations. Finally, the doctor told John he was 24 hours away from death. If the South American tours continued for another day, that would have been it." So it was the brush with death that made John consider a farewell tour in the first place. He wrote, "In the hospital, there, all alone during the night, I had prayed, 'Do not let me die, let me see my children once more, give me a little more time.' I felt as though I had the part of my life figured out, and this would allow me to slow down. It felt like the time for recovery was the answer to my prayers." John's decision to put his career and life into perspective notwithstanding, he still had to deal with several health issues afterwards. You see, the singer's body was struggling after being operated on. John was left with incontinence issues and had to relearn how to walk. John's lingering health problems made it obvious that he'd have to reschedule his concerts in Orlando and Tampa only hours before they were scheduled to take place. The reason was yet another infection. It was in his ear this time. Some people were unhappy to learn that the news had happened at such a late hour. One told the Tampa Bay Times newspaper, "Within earshot of me, some very angry people started yelling and milling around, understandably so." John took part in a public apology via Facebook after the incident in Orlando and Tampa. He wrote, "I am so deeply sorry to everyone attending the shows in Orlando last night and Tampa tonight. I've been on a course of antibiotics for my ear infection, and it was expected that these would clear the infection up in time for my performance in Orlando." That wasn't the final cancellation either. Due to illness, John had to pull out of one more Verona farewell concert in May 2019. A Facebook post read that John was fighting the flu and could not properly warm up his voice before the night's show. However, May 2019 turned out to be a good month for John, as his biography, Rocket Man, played in theaters. The film, which featured a starring role by actor Taron Egerton, who played John, was a big hit, and it flooded the box office with positive opinions from the moment it came out. The film won the BAFTA and the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor in a Motion Picture Musical or Comedy, among others. In addition, John Egerton won the Golden Globe for his performance as well. Furthermore, the title track he co-wrote with Egerton for the movie, I'm Gonna Love Me Again, did not just win the BAFTA and the Golden Globe Awards, but also a number of other awards. That's right, the piece won John his second Academy Award for Best Original Song, the first ever award going to him for Can You Feel the Love Tonight from The Lion King. So 2020 appeared to be off to a good start for John, but he experienced a further breakdown then. While performing the second part of his farewell Yellow Brick Road tour seen in February 2019, John fell ill. Yes, this concert was held at the Mount Smart Stadium in New Zealand, but only fans of the musician could say from the beginning that this drama wasn't going to end well. It became obvious that the concert could not continue anytime soon. Quickly after the pop singer performed his hit song Daniel, he tried to sing, but he began to cry. He told the audience, "I'm terribly sorry." After his assistants helped him leave, the concert was called off. In spite of the star's absence, though, the crowd continued to cheer and applaud. True, as reported by the audience who were there as his events unfolded, was the spectacle. Even in the middle of the beloved song Don't Go Breaking My Heart, which could be heard through the speakers, the crowd all began singing. John was likely thinking of his faithful followers when he composed an Instagram post in which he thanked them for their attendance. On February 16th, he posted, "Tonight, I want to thank you for the positive reaction to the last show in Auckland. I received a diagnosis of pneumonia earlier this morning, but I went ahead with the gig." Viewers and fans of the singer left many positive and encouraging comments on the post too. Bernie Taupin, John's long-term songwriter partner, wrote, "I love you and I'll be praying for your recovery." And the actor and musical star Neil Patrick Harris also remarked, "Feel better, Captain Fantastic." However, not everyone was happy with the situation. A fan who'd been at the concert told the New Zealand news site, Stuff, "It's so tragic that he was sick, but I wish I had just canceled the show and refunded our money or offered it another time when we were healthier." A different fan, who told him he'd spent a lot of money on the concert tickets, suggested to the website, "I think he should have canceled it. I believe every citizen should be entitled to half their money back. We saw only half the show, and it was good, but it wasn't great. I believe they pushed the show as much as they could, so there's no refund possible." But then of John's prognosis. It's true that walking pneumonia is not something that's a picnic. While it doesn't compare to the most nightmarish form of pneumonia, often known as general pneumonia, which can cause unfavorable outcomes and can even lead to death, it still weakens the chest and voice box. But that isn't all that. A bacterium called Mycoplasma pneumonia causes the disease, and it also makes people itchy, at risk for fever, and susceptible to coughing. The American Lung Association said on its website, "Bed rest or hospitalization are usually not needed, and symptoms can be mild enough that you can continue about your daily activities, hence the term walking. But don't be deceived, walking pneumonia can still be problematic with cough, fever, chest pain, mild chills, headache, etc. Therefore, the ALA recommends that people with the flu take it easy and sip extra fluids." It's also noted on the association's website that walking pneumonia might have bad effects, but since taking proper care of yourself is the only cure, it's best to do that rather than trudging. The statement read, "Despite the best efforts of a performer who doesn't want to disappoint his fans, upon further consultation with medical professionals and specialists, it has this evening been decided that Sir Elton John's 2 remaining performances at the Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland will be rescheduled to Friday the 15th and Saturday the 16th, 2021. John, too, released a statement. He said, "I always want to be able to perform at 100%, and I'm afraid that right now that isn't possible. I am so appreciative of your loyalty and love, and I'm excited to share my last New Zealand shows with you next year. I'm thankful for the love you've shown me, and I can't wait to return to New Zealand to perform my final shows there." The tour did not go ahead as planned, but John returned as planned the following week. He reflected on his favorable highlights from throughout the tour on his Instagram account in the next week. "I'm back in Australia. Let's celebrate all the highlights that we made, along with my 6 remaining shows. I was devastated to have to postpone the last 2 shows in New Zealand. I'm grateful to my New Zealand fans for their support you've given me over the past few years. I'm very sorry that I must reschedule the New Zealand concerts, but my health needs to be a top priority."